Hi, C students. This is Dennis. I'm going to just give an example similar to the one I did in class about creating a contiguous dynamic memory array on the heap. Uh, so the specifications of what I'm trying to accomplish would be as follows. So let's assume I'm going to store information on boxes. As we know, boxes have a height and a width. So I'm going to create a program that's going to store a bunch of boxes, and I'm going to allow the user to determine how many of these boxes I may or may not have. And then the only other main rule would be I'm going to store the box information on the heap, not on the stack. So the first thing I do is I have my own little template that has like pause and clear and flush and my marquee and other tools that I commonly use. The code that I'm writing is obviously written by me. I wrote it on the 21st of October, and I'm going to create an array on the heap and save and retrieve binary data. To do this, I created a struct. I named my struct box that simply has two fields, int height, int width. So in my program, the first thing I did is I created three variables, 1, 2, 3. Notice size is now a variable, not a constant, because on the heap I can let the user supply me the size. eSize, just like any eSize, effective size is the number of elements on the array that I've populated. Now down here, this syntax creates me what's going to be a variable named boxes that points to something of type box. Defaulted to null, and basically this creates a reference variable that's later going to become the address of the array. So in this code, one of the first things I do is I call the function called Getint, which is in my template, which just makes sure that the user types a valid integer. And I ask them how many boxes will they have at most. So they tell me maybe 100, and my size becomes 100. Now I'm going to actually create the array. I'm going to calc, which is the clear memory allocation, whatever size equal from up here, and what is the size of each element? It's the size of one box. This is going to create or recreate the array. So this creates the array. This is my test to make sure that that array was created, because if this calc failed, maybe there wasn't enough memory, boxes would still equal null, and if box equals null, I let the people know or the user know that I couldn't allocate memory, maybe a better message than that, but nonetheless they read it, and because I couldn't create the array, there's no reason to have this program run anymore, so I just do a hard exit. So then I have three more functions down here, one called load boxes. Basically all load boxes does is it makes sure there's space, and it prompts the user to enter the height and width of a box, and then it asks them if it wants to add another. I could stay in load boxes until either the array is full or the user says they don't want to add another. Output boxes simply takes the array called boxes, the effective size, and outputs the data. And then save, this creates my binary save file. So I pass it boxes, eSize, and size. Notice all by, this is by value, this is by value, and all arrays are passed by reference. So here's my load boxes. I basically come in and I make sure there's room inside of this loop. If there's no more room, because these two things are equal, I let the user know and I return. If I get to line 46, there is room, and I use my marquee here just to say, hey, I'm adding a box, create a little bit of space on both sides, and then I just ask, give me the height, give me the width. I add those into the array. That's what's going on here, of the current element. Since I added something, I increment the size by eSize by 1, and then I ask them if they want to do it again, yes or no, and I keep testing until they say no. And that's here's my output box. I tell them box output data, create a little bit of space, and then I output the box information. What I did not do is right here I should test eSize for 0. If it is, then there's nothing to output, and I tell the user that. And here's just a regular old for loop outputting what's there, and that's that. So here's my creation of my binary file. I passed the array, I passed the effective size and the size, no value by value. I open up my file pointer variable. I make sure that it worked. If it didn't work, meaning I can't create this document, I let the user know, I let them read it, and I don't do a hard exit, I just don't save it, I return. The first thing I do if I do get to line 92 is I save the size first. I need that because as I am retrieving and I'm allocating the new space for the array on the heap after a retrieval, I need size first. I need to save the size next, or I will not be able to save the array itself. And finally, save the array data. Once I'm done with these 3 F writes, I close my pointer and I'm done. Here's the function that reloads. First of all, I actually pass the box or the array, the pointer to the box pointer, which is my array down here. I didn't need to do that. I could have used a result variable. So there's multiple ways to get from A to Z. But do notice that I passed this by reference and this by reference. At the beginning of this, I default size to 0. Don't really need to do that, but I did. Here I try to open the file for reading. This I test to see if it was successful. If it was successful, I let the user know that it was successful. I pause for them to read, and so the first thing I need to read is the size. So this gets me this size, and then I reallocate the array. I reallocate that array wherever the OS gives me the space. So I need size, number, and this is the size of each element. So this is the number of elements and this is the size. So this reallocates. Then I bring back the effective size. And notice this is the address, this is the address, and this is the value. Once I have the effective size using the value of it, I bring back the entire array in this one statement here. And then I'm done. I close the pointer and I return the address back up in main. Okay, so I'm running it for the first time and there's nothing to reload, so I let the user know that. They press any key to continue, and now I need the size or the total number of boxes I may ever have. So I'll just enter some number like 666. This is the first box I'm going to store, so it has a height and width of 7 and 8. And if I want to add another one, I can do a 9999. And the user can press enter, and now I'm going to say no more, that's enough. So here's the output. Here's my box output data. I entered a 7 and 8, 7 height, 8 width, and there's the area, and there's the height and width, and there's the area. And I believe that ran. So I'm going to run it one more time. Here it goes. And notice now the second time, the data that I just typed is back into the array. And I am adding something new just because this is the way the code works. So I'll just do a 1, 2. I'll say no, it's going to output, and this information was brought back. All right, you need to look at this code. My suggestion is look at this code, and you should be able to rewrite this from scratch. I want to keep it under 10 minutes, so I'm going to look like I'm at about 9 minutes and 30 seconds. So I'm going to wrap this up by saying practice, 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 practice.